Whenever I see or hear a speech calling for youth to rise, it's almost always from some sort of faraway figure. It comes from celebrities, from politicians, from world leaders, even from middle-aged adults. They call for youth to be engaged and represented. They call for them to vote and be involved. And while their words can often be inspiring, they're almost always abstract. So today, I'm here to talk to you, eye to eye, friend to friend, classmate to classmate, student to student, about the power we possess as young people in our community and beyond. Young people hold extraordinary power in our democracy, and we've seen this power in action this summer in the recent Black Lives Matter protests. We are on the front lines in the fights for gender equality, for immigrant rights, for LGBTQ rights, for environmental policies. We have undeniable and unstoppable potential and strength. We respond the most when our rights and our well-being is in danger. My first step into the world of civic engagement and activism came after the current administration threatened the rights of immigrants in Dhaka in 2016. I'm from China. I was adopted from there as a very small child. And as an adoptee, I was really scared. I was scared that I'd be sent back to China. I knew I had to do something about that fear. So I joined my local youth commission in hopes of making a difference. Young people across the country face student debt, the effects of climate change, a crashing economy, and unemployment rates. And a lot of them had felt the same threat and fear that I once did. That fear and anger that we feel has galvanized thousands of young people across the country into action. So we protest, we volunteer, we post on social media, but where we fall short is voting. Young people are underrepresented in every single election. Every single election. But what does this underrepresentation really look like? Let's take a look at the 2016 general election. So before I move on to this, I just want you to take a guess at the percentage of young people who showed up to vote in 2016. Got that number in your head? Only a little bit more than 16% of young people showed up to vote. Only a little bit more than 16% of young voters aged 18 to 24 years old actually came to the polls in 2016. That's crazy. 16%. To put this into perspective, when you look at the turnout rate of older voters aged 65 and up, they came out at nearly 71%. 16 versus 71%. That is an incredible disparity. Okay. So if you're a politician, and I just want you to imagine that you're a politician for a minute, and you're really in desperate need of some votes. Whose needs are you going to cater towards first? Which group are you going to try and appeal to? Because it won't be the young people. And this is what turns into this never-ending cycle. Young people don't show up to vote, and older people do. And so, as a result, politicians' campaigns largely are centered around the issues that matter most to older people. And then young voters feel overlooked and invisible and frustrated, and then they don't vote again, and they don't vote again, and again, and again. But what if we broke that chain? In 2018, we saw a small glimpse at what politics in America could look like if young people actually showed up to vote more. In 2018, young voters across the country shattered records and made history. We elected one of the most diverse group of politicians in history. Arizona and Tennessee sent its first female senators to Washington. Massachusetts and Connecticut elected its first ever Black women to Congress. Young people also voted to elect the first Muslim members of Congress, and we elected Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the youngest woman ever to hold a spot in Congress at 29 years old. So how did we make this happen? It's not rocket science. More young people showed up to vote. In 2018, 36% of voters aged 18 to 29 showed up to the polls. But when you look a little closer and break down the age groups a little more, the youngest voters, aged 18 to 21, only showed up at about 4%. We're barely exercising the youth electorate, and we still made history in 2018. Imagine what we could do if we exercised our entire potential. If turnout rate was 50%, if it was 75%. We make change together, and we make change in numbers. But we still have a ton of work to do. We are the sleeping giant in the 2020 election and elections to come. But to make history, to break those same records, we must all vote. And even so, I'm standing here talking to you, and I'm barely 16. It's easy to feel left out of the political process if you're a minor. You can't vote, and our representation is left up to our parents who decide our elected officials. But even we, as minors, carry massive political weight. With the rise in activism over the summer, I've seen a lot of my friends and colleagues become more involved and interested in educating themselves. I see people sharing infographic posts on social media. I see people signing and spreading petitions. I see people posting about their thoughts on politics and their thoughts on current events. I am endlessly proud and excited that people are wanting to learn and are wanting to become involved. It gives me hope to see people speak out who I normally wouldn't have imagined. And it used to be much less common for myself and my friends to even share our opinions out of fear of looking overly opinionated or even too nerdy. The events of this summer, between the global pandemic, the Black Lives Matter protests, the economy, unemployment, and so much more that's been thrown at us, has sparked a unique type of outrage among young people. And every day I find that new people are becoming involved. But this is my ask to my friends and my fellow teenagers. Please do not limit your activism to just social media. It is not enough to just post. It is not enough to just share a few links. It is not enough to just sign a few petitions. We have the power to educate ourselves and those around us, and our influence on relatives and family and older siblings and even our parents could be the determining factor in whether they vote or not. We can become involved in community youth groups, like local youth commissions, many of which inform government officials on the issues that matter most to us. We can volunteer in campaigns at the community, state, and national level. We can show up to city council meetings, school board meetings, county board meetings, and make public comment. In California and 13 other states, 16 and 17-year-olds can pre-register to vote. And while that does not change the voting age, it still allows us to be the most prepared and more likely to go through with voting when the time actually comes. We can volunteer with nonprofit organizations like Rock the Vote, which is literally dedicated to building the political strength of young people. This November, we can volunteer as student poll workers. I've signed up, a lot of my friends have too, and we're super excited. This work, this involvement, this energy translates into political power. Not just political power for its own sake, but political power as a means to achieve the change we think we need to see in this country. When we all protest, when we all show up at city council meetings, when we all pre-register, when we all vote, when we all do everything we can possibly do, we create real momentum, a type of momentum that cannot be stopped. We must be willing to wield the power we have together. We must be willing to fight for our future, for our planet, for each other, for our rights. Change is no longer coming, it is here. And we still have so much work to do. But we must be on the front lines together. Thank you.